Does your WIP pile make you feel slightly judged? Let's fix that. In today's episode, I have some challenges and some sneaky brain hacks that are going to help you finish what you've started. My name is Amber, and this is a Lovely Yarn podcast. Welcome back, friends. I'm so glad that you're joining me today. I really appreciate you watching. So I recently did a Frog It or Finish It episode where I featured 21 of my all of my WIPs. They were all of my WIPs. And that was a very well received video. I got many comments, so many ideas from that video, and it made me feel so much better about my amount of WIPs. And I have to say, there are people who have more WIPs than me, and there are people who only knit one thing at a time. So it runs a whole range of how we tend to manage our WIPs or what we feel mentally comfortable with when it comes to the number of projects that we have going. I was thinking after filming that episode, I was trying to figure out a way to successfully get through my 21 WIPs, which the funny thing is I actually have 22. I found a sock cast on that I actually just casted on this summer, and I kind of forgot about when I was gathering up all my projects. I'm not sure how that happened, but I was trying to think of a way that I could motivate myself to get through those WIPs, because for me, that is way too many. When I first began knitting, I would say I usually kept 3, 4, maybe at the most 5 active WIPs going at one time. And so to have 22 it's just way too much clutter for my brain. Now, many of you had suggested some great ideas on how you manage your WIPs and ways that you motivate yourselves to finish your WIPs. And then I got online and I did a little bit of research just in various knitting forums and other places, and I gathered some more great ideas on how to manage our WIPs. That's what I want to talk about today. Real quick before I get into the meat of that, I just want to show you, I actually finished one of those WIPs that I had featured in my Frog It or Finish It episode. This is my Lotus Tee. This is a free pattern by Fukalana. I knit this in the drop Safran. The main color is sea green, and the contrast color is called red clay. Now, I will put some footage over here of me wearing it, like a picture or something. That way I don't have to try to stand up and get it into full frame. I really like this. I really like this top. It falls right above, like on my upper hip. So it's a really good length for me to be able to wear with basically anything. I don't know that I would wear it over dresses. I have worn it over a dress, but I felt like it was maybe a little bit too long for that. But it's really great for wearing with jeans or shorts. Also, I want to show you my Ranunculus. Again, I'm just going to roll through these really quickly, but I'm almost finished with this as well. I've been really motivated. I've actually focused on 3 different projects since I posted that Frog It or Finish It video. And so these are the 3 projects I've been working on, and this is one of them. I'm actually just on the ribbing. I have 2 more rounds of ribbing, and then I will bind off on this, and I will block it, and it will be finished and ready to wear. For this sweater, I am using Sandnes Garn Lena, and I think the colorway is light blue. It will be listed down below with all the other details from this episode. My last WIP that I'm really trying to work on is in this little bag. So I'm calling these socks my Mall Madness socks. Now, if you're an 80s kid, like if you were probably elementary, like I was in elementary in the 80s, you may be familiar with the game Mall Madness, and it was a game that my sisters and I used to love, and we played it quite frequently. It was so cool to have a game that would talk back to you. If you know, you know. So this yarn has such an 80s vibe that I just couldn't help it. I had to call these my Mall Madness socks. Let me show you. Just because Mall Madness is such an iconic 80s game in my mind. So these are my Mall Madness socks, and I have to just close up the toe on that one, and I've already started the second one. I have the heel flap done, and I'm going to be doing the picking up. No, I have to finish down here and get that started, and then I'll pick up the gusset stitches. But it worked out that I'm starting in the same exact space that I started in the yarn skein for this sock. It's amazing. I did not plan that. I wasn't planning on trying to make them matchy-matchy. I was just basically working with this yarn, which is Patons Kroy. And I'll put the name of it in the description box below. But yes, so these are my Mall Madness socks. Okay, so now I want to talk about the really fun stuff because I love to play games with myself. When it comes to motivating myself to get things done, and I'm not just talking about crafting or knitting or crochet projects, I'm talking about anything in life. I love to set up little challenges for myself. I find it very motivating, and I know other people are the same way. Now, these little brain hacks and tips, they may not be very applicable if you are a person who only likes to knit on like 2 or 3 projects at a time. I mean, maybe you will, I'm sure you will find something useful, but this is going to be more useful, I think, for someone like me who just feels like they're maybe drowning a bit in their WIPs. And I also want to say that these are just fun ideas. If you want to just keep casting on all the new things, that is your prerogative. Go right ahead and do it. But I know for me, it's gotten out of hand and it's made me feel stressed. And when I feel stressed, I want to eliminate the stress as much as possible. And with my knitting, that's an area that it's very easy to eliminate stress because all I need to do is finish my WIPs, whether it is finishing them and wearing them or frogging them. So I just have a few ideas that you guys gave me and that I gathered from the internet on ways to motivate us and to spur us on when we need a little boost of encouragement to get those WIPs finished. Okay, this first idea was actually from a viewer, and basically how this works is that you assign 12 hours straight work to each project that you have, to each WIP that you have. Now, this doesn't mean that you sit down for 12 hours straight in one day and work on a project. I mean, you could do that, but I feel like I would go absolutely crazy. I have a hard time sitting still for an hour, let alone 12 hours. So what you basically do with this method is you would keep track of 12 hours. Somehow you can use your little watch time thing. I can't think of what it's called right now, on your phone, or somehow keep track of your hours in your notebook or something. And you want to work 12 dedicated hours in a row on one project before moving on to the next project and working on that project for 12 dedicated hours. And then you would just cycle through your projects that way. Some of your projects you're going to finish up in that 12-hour period. Maybe it's not even going to take you 12 hours. Other projects you may need several 12-hour sessions, but you're basically cycling through all of your projects, dedicating 12 hours at a time to each project. And I thought that was a really great idea. And I think that is definitely something that would be a way that I would find useful to tackle my WIPs. This next method is somewhat similar, but instead of taking 12-hour shifts for a project, you're going to take each day of the week, you're going to assign a different project. And on that day of the week, you're only going to work on that project. So for instance, Sunday, I'm only going to work on my Ranunculus sweater. Mondays, I'm totally dedicating that to my step-by-step cardigan. Tuesday, I'm going to work on my Mall Madness socks. Wednesday, I'm going to work on my heel toe do-si-do socks. Thursday, I'm going to work on, and you get the idea, right? So each day of the week, you're dedicating to whatever knitting time you have in that day, you're going to work on that particular project. Now, with me having 22 WIPs, I would have to go through several weeks, or maybe I could just pick 7 projects and work on those for a while and then move on to my next 7 projects and then my next 7 projects. And so cycle through those. This next idea I've heard about frequently in the financial world, and it is called the snowball effect. So basically, when you're looking at your debt, because Brad and I had done this a while ago, you look at your debt and you start with your smallest debt and you pay off your smallest debt. And then you roll that money over into where, once that debt is paid off, you rolled it into your next smallest debt, and so on and so forth. So you build up momentum. And so you can also apply that to your knitting, crochet, crafting projects. You look at all of your projects, you assess them. How much time do I need to finish each project? And then you choose the project that's going to require the least amount of time and you start with that. Once you finish that, you move on to the next. So you're basically ranking your projects by how much time you're going to need to finish them, or the percentage of completion that they're already at. And you start with your project that's going to require the least amount of time. And the whole idea with this is that once you get that first project done, and because you could get through it quicker, you're going to feel motivated to move to your next. And you're just going to build up momentum. And that's why they call it the snowball effect. I'm sure that many of you have heard of this, like I said, with finances and stuff like that. But you can also apply this to your knitting. For those of us who need visual encouragement, there was an idea that I found online for using some sort of visual prop, visual momentum tracker, if you will. And two of the better ideas that I saw were like a progress thermometer, where, as you know, you draw out your thermometer, like an old mercury thermometer. And then as you could even label off to the side, like your different project names until the whole like thermometer is filled with different projects. And then as you complete each project, you color in up till that point with red for like your old mercury thermometers. So you're actually tracking your progress. The other one I saw, which I feel like this is a little bit more fun, is actually using a paper chain and making a little paper chain. And then every time you finish a project, you rip off that paper chain and you throw that away, and then you kind of see your progress as you go. And then I guess if you would start a new WIP in that time, you just add another paper chain on. So that one would be a little bit easier to, like, as far as flexibility and variability with your project number, that one would be a bit easier than doing a progression thermometer. But I would say for that, you could just like hang it somewhere off of a nail or off of a hook somewhere where you could just track your progress that way. And you can make it really cute with pretty scrapbook paper, or you can make it really simple and just use your kids' construction paper. Okay, this next one was another idea from one of my viewers, and I also really, really liked this one because I have 22 WIPs. So I do not think that it is practical for me to expect myself to only work on my old projects and not be allowed to cast on new projects. We all like shiny new things, right? Including knitting projects. And I have a lot of patterns that I want to knit, especially for the fall and winter. So I am not going to box myself in and say, because I have this many projects already on my needles, I am not allowed to do any other projects until these are all completed. So one of the viewers suggested the 2 for 1, which basically means for every 2 WIPs you complete, you get to cast on 1 new project. And I thought that was a fantastic idea because I feel like it would keep the excitement in your knitting. Sometimes the reason that we stop projects is because they are boring and they've lost the spark. But if they haven't lost the spark enough that we're willing to frog them, we still want to actually finish them. We just, need a little motivation. I feel like this would be great because I don't want to say, Amber, you're not allowed to cast on any new projects until you finish all these WIPs. That's not practical for me. So I loved this idea of 2 for 1. Finish 2 WIPs, cast on a new shiny one. Okay, this next one, I guess I should have probably included it in the visual momentum tracker, but it is a bingo card. There are actually people who will make up just a little bingo card and put in however many squares would be equal to the number of WIPs that they have. And then as they finish a project, whatever square that project is listed in, they will cross it out. And I don't know if I didn't really get the idea that once, like if they would actually make a bingo connection, that they would reward themselves with anything. But I think it was more of a, let's just have a visual reminder and something right in front of us to keep us motivated and let's just fill up this bingo card. These last two ideas are actually very random ways to work on your WIPs. The one is a digital wheel that you would spin. So there are websites, and I'm going to try to find one that's free and link it down below, where you actually would put in the name of each of your WIPs, and each of your WIPs would have a little wedge in your wheel. And then you would digitally spin your wheel, and whatever wedge that would land on is the project that you would work on. Now, the nice thing about that is because it's digital, you can change it. So there is flexibility. You can take out projects and you'd be able to add new cast on names in. So that would be really nice with that one. The other idea was you take all of your project bags that have WIPs in them, you stick them into like a box or something that you cannot see through. So a bin that's not clear, or a pretty box, whatever. Basket with a lid, and then you're just randomly reaching in and pulling out a project, and that's the project that you work on. Now, you could do that as in, I'm working on this until I completely finish it, or you could do it like every day of the week. You pull out a project, and that's the project you work on that day, and you put it back. So this might be a good practice for people who like the excitement of not having it scheduled out. Monday I'm working on this, Tuesday I'm working on this, and so on and so forth. But rather every day they're just pulling out a project and they're like, oh, this is my project for today. I could actually see myself using that idea more so than the digital wheel. I don't know. It could be fun. It could be fun, especially if I was doing it on a daily basis or a weekly basis. Maybe I pull it out on Sunday and this is the project I'm working on for the entire week. I don't think I'd want to pull out my project and be like, I have to only work on this until it's completed. I don't think I would like that. But I see how this could be a useful motivator. Of course, there were many other ideas on the internet. The internet is a wealth of information, and there are lots of ideas that are shared by other people, but these were the ones that stuck out the most to me, so I thought maybe you guys would find them helpful too. So let me know in the comments down below, if you were to use any of these ideas, these WIP motivating ideas, which one or two would you want to use? Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this content, please make sure to like this video and subscribe so that you will get more cozy knitting content in the future when I post. Down below, you can see my links for my Instagram account and my Ko-fi account, as well as my email. I thank you again for joining me today on this short, but I hope helpful and inspiring video that will help us all to work down that WIP pile so we can cast on some new great projects for the upcoming fall. Thank you so much, or spring if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.